Welcome, everyone, to the Catholic Education Foundation podcast number 8. This podcast will feature Terry Mullaney, principal of Ascension School in Louisville's St. Regis Park neighborhood, along with Rich Lecklider. Rich is the president of the Catholic Education Foundation of Louisville, now in his 9th year. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, good to see you again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, T.
So, Terry, let's start with you here. Before we get into all the exciting success that you've had at Ascension, let's tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your family, including your Catholic education background.
Yeah, well, first, Rich, thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate this opportunity to have this discussion with T. Thank you.
Sure.
So I started at Mother Good Counsel, which
MGC,
which is no longer around, unfortunately. But from there on to Trinity High School, and I've got 2 girls, an 8th grader and a 5th grader, who will go on to Catholic high schools as well, and both of them are at Ascension. So long history in Catholic schools in Louisville, and very proud of that.
Is it hard to be a principal and a parent at the same time?
Yeah, it wasn't when they were little, but now that they're
it's becoming more difficult, right?
Absolutely. The middle school years are proving a lot more challenging as that goes with the social aspects. But no, it's been rewarding overall to have them. But I think my oldest going on to this sounds like assumption next year. I think she's ready to escape the being around dad every day.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I would say she's ready to get out of that, having dad's eye over her at all times.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about these ribbons. So obviously, Ascension has earned some amazing accolades here as of late. There's a national blue ribbon and a national green ribbon now, right?
Right. Green ribbon just announced this year, so we're very excited about that. In fact, April, or Earth Day to be exact.
Okay.
When we
that
received that honor. It's been incredibly exciting, incredibly a lot of hard work went into it, but it's definitely something we're very proud of.
So the blue ribbon first. So the blue ribbon was 2019.
Correct.
And that was something that Ascension had never received before.
Correct. And we were told it would be very difficult for us to receive that because of the size of our school. Just speaking statistically, I mean, you have a class of 22, 24 students. It takes a lot fewer of those students to not perform well.
Okay.
And you lose that opportunity. But we worked hard for a long time to get to a point where we could achieve that.
So according to a press release, and this is from the Record article, the green ribbon is an honor for a school for its innovative efforts to reduce environmental impact and utility costs, also improve the health and wellness, ensure effective sustainability education. What does that mean? How did you guys end up with that?
Yeah, so I'm going to take you back a little bit. My first job as an educator was teaching 5th grade for the Houston Independent School District, what they call a magnet school. And the magnet school is sort of like your special area, whether it be music or PE, except this magnet school serves all students in 5th grade in the Houston Independent School District. So anyways, that magnet school was an outdoor education program. And that was my first teaching job. So we worked with students in forest study, pond study, just ecology in general. It was fabulous. Fabulous opportunity for me, but it gave me that sort of push into this notion that obviously we want to care for our planet, what God's created and given to us. So
sure.
It just never left me, is my point. And coming into this at Ascension, every school I've been a part of, working in an environmental way, a sustainable way, has been at the top of my priority list. So coming to Ascension, we saw an opportunity to make some improvements in that regard. And some of those were, Ascension had windows that have been there since 1965 when the school opened.
Okay.
And so we had the students start conducting science experiments by holding thermometers up to those old windows, and then once we started getting the new ones and recording the difference and creating data sheets, which we then used to go to the various boards and say, hey, this is important. We need to, we can save some energy here with some new windows. So it was that, getting into gardening, composting, a no idle zone for the parents during carpool, water bottle filling stations to students not bringing in all those water bottles anymore. So some of those things, obviously, with a lot of other, especially in our cafe. Another big piece of what I've always been a fan of, especially coming from Colorado, is eating healthy fuels the mind. And so going to our hiring a chef who cooks healthy meals, and then taking it a step further and saying, hey, let's partner with some local farmers here in Kentucky to start getting our food from them, as opposed to the standard fare, frozen, heated up, serve it to the kids. So, and then taking whatever leftover food and then giving that to the Franciscan shelter.
Sure.
It's just some areas like that, and then again beyond. And it took all of us quite a while. So we started that effort in 2013 to push for the new windows, the gardens, everything we've done in the cafeteria. But we made it, and we never.
The Green Ribbon's pretty prestigious too, right?
It is. It's not as well known as far as I know. I think St. Agnes is the only other Catholic elementary school who's
in the
received in the Archdiocese has received the Green Ribbon. So it is. It's one of those things you really have to put some serious effort. Academics, I mean, that's what we're in the business of is teaching.
Sure.
And so that should be second nature to all of us. But when you start looking at, and another big piece was when the Pope came out with the encyclical Laudato Si, and that part about environmental, sustainability and caring for our environment and our world, that really inspired me to kick it in high gear, as well as our faculty and students. So
pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Rich, we have 48 Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of Louisville, 39 elementary, 9 high schools. Tell us how these schools have fared over the years in the context of the National Blue Ribbon distinction.
Teague, it's a great question. And really, we are, while we've not researched it, we're probably without compare. Let me give you some numbers. Every year on the non-public school side, there's only 50 schools nationally that earn a blue ribbon. Only 50 schools.
And that's 50 per year.
50 per year nationwide.
And this comes from the Department of Education, correct, in Washington, D.C.?
Correct. It's a national award. So the number of winners, as you will, is very limited. Okay. Now in the diocese, and it speaks to what Terry's done at Ascension for that school to pull that off is awesome. First of all, and congratulations.
Thank you.
But in the diocese, we have 22 of our schools, 22 out of 48 of our schools have at one point in time earned a National Blue Ribbon distinction.
That is incredible.
And if you add all the ones that have repeated, for example, St. X is a 4-time repeater, okay? If you add all the schools that have actually been honored by the award, that's 39 times a school in the Diocese of Louisville has earned a National Blue Ribbon. Per capita, I can't imagine any other diocese touching that. I can't.
No way. If you do the math, only 50 a year. Think about all the schools nationally.
Right.
And how many of us locally have accomplished that? That's wild.
Well, it does. It speaks so much, and we've talked about it for years. We don't talk about it enough. It speaks to the quality of the education our kids are getting. It speaks to the quality of our faculty and our school leadership. It's pretty amazing.
Gosh, what a cool fact. I had no idea that so many schools in our area. Listen, we preach Catholic education all the time. That's just another really big, ribbon in the hat, right? So, Terry, can you speak to some of the accomplishments your faculty has had over these past 2 years of COVID? It's been a tough 2 years to be in the school industry.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest accomplishments is just endurance. They survival. I mean, they made it out. Oh, well, let's hope we're out. But they buckled down. They did the hard work. They remained dedicated and steadfast in their willingness and want to educate children and make sure they're still getting top-notch education.
Yeah. So, Rich, I have a sixth grader who's actually at Ascension, and one of his good friends was telling him, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to go to Ascension next year because my family just can't afford it. And I'd made the comment to you, and Rich immediately said, well, who is it? Well, let's figure this out. We got to fix that. And lo and behold, it was fixed. So, Rich, talk to me a little bit about how the Catholic Education Foundation plays an important role at Ascension.
Yeah, we love it. We love our relationship with all of our elementary schools, and particularly Ascension. I visited with Terry years ago. I'm in my 9th year. Terry's going in his 10th, so we're kind of running parallel paths here in terms of what we're doing. And, we kind of committed several years ago to Terry, I think when he first became principal, hey, if there are people in this neighborhood or there's people that that want to go to Ascension School, can't afford it, call us up. We're gonna do this together, and we've done it really, really well in the last 8 or 9 years. It's been phenomenal. In fact, last fall we gave tuition assistance awards to 78 kids in the school, which is a pretty good number.
Oh, that's great.
And with awards of over $150,000 of tuition assistance, so we're super proud of it. We want the number to go up every year, and again, hats off to Terry and the team over there. We're not doing the hard work, okay? We're a financier, but hats off to those folks for the kind of product that a kid can have access to in the form of Ascension School. It's awesome.
It's life-changing is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
Huge
and
blessing.
we talk about that on all these podcasts. I mean, it is life-changing. So, Terry, you're on your 10th year as principal at this thriving Ascension Catholic School. What are you most proud of?
That's a good question. Tough one. There's so many things to be proud of. I would say currently I'm most proud of just the faculty and students. Again, I know everything is painted in the image of COVID right now. It's hard to get away from, but I definitely think that, just their commitment to showing up every day with the want to learn and the teacher's ability to, like I said earlier, persevere through the difficulties. And I will say, Ascension was one of the first schools in the Arch elementary schools to have one-to-one iPads, K through 8. Yep. And so that was around 2014, 15, years before, obviously, we entered this pandemic. So our students were already up to speed on Google Classroom, prepared. I mean, we went into this, and I'll never forget when this all, when the pandemic hit, and they said, okay, we're starting. Everyone's going to do homeschool in March 2019.
20.
And we all looked at each other, the faculty, we all just looked at each other and said, we're ready. We don't really need to do a whole lot. Our kids are already doing everything online. So, I'm just really proud of that, the way we came through it, because I think anytime you meet adversity as human beings, I think that when you come out of that, you look back and you say, that's really what helps shape us, who we are, and also shows us what we're capable of. Sure. And so that we walk around with our heads held high and think, hey, we really knocked this one out of the park.
Now, there's a travel component at Ascension that's a little bit different, and it's not what you see at other schools. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So our 8th graders go to the Grand Canyon every year. And
Grand Canyon, Rich.
Grand Canyon, yeah.
This isn't the zoo or
no,
we're going to go down
Kings Island. Where I went.
We went to Cincinnati. Wow.
Right, exactly. Grand Canyon.
So the Grand Canyon, and then our 6th and 7th graders, we go to Washington, D.C. every year. It's interesting. So again,
why Grand Canyon? Like, what do you do on this trip?
So we're visiting Grand Canyon National Park. We're visiting Zion National Park, and some of the other components of that I've really fallen in love with is the opportunity for our students to meet indigenous peoples and Native Americans and be on their land and actually get to experience and listen to the stories from them about how they came to be and on the land that they currently occupy, and the reservations, and it's just to watch their faces. They're just in awe as these Native Americans are telling their story and their views, and then how that matches up with what they're reading in history books, and that's part of the critical thinking component that we push at Ascension. Is we want to take you to places and meet, and see, the people and places that you're reading about, and the science that you're learning. Because listen, the East Coast, if we think back, I'm not going to get a big history thing here, but it's easy to look at Simon Kenton and Daniel Boone and some of the early explorers of the East Coast. But who are the most famous West Coast explorers ever? Lewis and Clark. And so everyone knows that. But the West offers, look at water, for example. We take it for granted on the East Coast. Out there, it's dry, and they're in serious danger right now of not having water. So our students being able to go out and look at Lake Mead, Lake Powell, and see those reservoirs and those dams that were created. And then they get to float the Colorado below Lake Powell, right at the dam. They put in right at that massive dam, and they get in a boat and ride the Colorado down. But the whole time they're talking, through the canyon, which leads right into the Grand Canyon, and they're talking about this resource that we're floating on right now. But they're getting the big education about it. I can go on and on, but why the Grand Canyon? It's the West. There's the culture, there's the ecology, there is just the beauty. God's world, God's paintbrush went to town out there, and it's all opinion. I mean, some people love, Kentucky's beautiful, everything's beautiful, but there's something to be said for it. And we also look at the aspect that how many families at Ascension, or just in general adults, I ask every year, how many of you all have been to the Grand Canyon? And there might be one or two out of 30 parents.
Right.
Sure.
And these kids may never have the opportunity. Whereas you say, let's go to Chicago or D.C., everyone raises their hands. So it's also providing that opportunity for them to see something they may never see again. That was a long-winded answer, but I'm really passionate about it.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I do know the kids that come back from that trip, they're changed.
Yeah.
It's a life experience that they'll cherish for the rest of their life.
If I could say one more thing.
Sure.
So my first job was teaching at the Outdoor Education Center for the Houston Independent School District. Again, it was a 90-mile journey for those fifth graders to travel from Houston to our campus. And I'll never forget sitting by the lake. The campus was on a lake, and we did an astronomy lesson, and I was down at the lake with them. It was nighttime, and we're sitting there, and this girl looks at me, fifth grader, and she says, Mr. Terry, what are those lights up there in the sky? And I looked at her and I said, are you really? She said, yeah, what are they? They're just beautiful. I said, those are the stars. Coming to Houston, she'd never seen stars because of the light pollution.
Wow.
Now, if you've been out west and you've stared at that sky at nighttime, I mean, I get chills thinking about it. But again, tracing back and knowing what that kind of experience can do for kids is really, it's life-changing for me still. And I see it in their faces too, our students, because a lot of them have not seen things like that. A night sky so visceral that it cuts.
Wow.
Sorry.
No, it's awesome. And again, we're talking about what makes Ascension great, right? And this is a great example of that, among others. And it's just so cool to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rich, something that kind of strikes me as I hear Terry talk here, and I think this isn't just Ascension, but this is something that we get with a lot of our Catholic schools, principals, teachers, the passion. You hear a lot of passion right there. You could tell. I mean, he is passionate about what they're doing at Ascension. I think we get a lot more of that in the Catholic schools than you would see at some other places.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think there's also this tremendous desire to do better every day. And you see it in the faculty, you see it in the leadership. And guess what? It extends its way through every heart and mind in the building. That's the power of this thing. So that when you run into a lot of these kids later on in high school, college, et cetera, in life, you find a lot of kids that were taught to be better, do better. And they're living that every day.
They're living it every day
Every
because
day.
of their Catholic education.
And more so, again, thanks to the Catholic Education Foundation, because now we're getting the opportunity to take more students on these trips and expose them to the Catholic education and what we're trying to do. So.
Well, think how different would Ascension look without the foundation?
No, there's no question.
I mean, the numbers Rich just threw out there. It's a totally different situation there without the Catholic Education Foundation. It's totally different.
It is, and it makes my job, and I know my colleagues, other administrators, it makes our job easier, because when we have tours and we have families come in, and you can just tell they want to be at this school.
Yep.
And they say, boy, my kid just loves it here, but we're not sure we can afford it. And it's just an easy thing to say is contact Catholic Education Foundation. The answer is yes. Mm-hmm. And they're just blown away. And then it turns out it happens for them, and you've just made someone's life.
Yeah, we love it when a family will reach out to us a little bit skeptical, right? Because they've never had this kind of opportunity given to them before, or they've never been able to achieve that level of access. And we go through the process pretty quick, and we find we kind of cut a deal and make it happen for the family. They go, wow, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Look what I got here. And the other thing that's really important for us is to stay on the journey with that family every year thereafter.
Right.
If they need assistance the next year and the year after, don't let anybody fall through the cracks. Accompany them on the journey. That's been the most fun for me in this job, is watching these families grow. They become more inspired.
Sure.
The whole family profile changes like you wouldn't believe. And all of a sudden, kids off to Catholic high school, kids off to college. It's just amazing to see it.
And Rich, I've heard you say several times that 100% of the kids that apply for award, that qualify, receive an award.
Yeah, the answer truly is yes. We kind of started it as a slogan, but now it's a mandate. And last fall, we awarded tuition assistance to an all-time high 3,400 kids across the diocese, and every one of whom qualified for an award. In fact, there was nobody that qualified for an award that didn't get one. The answer is yes. And we like to do that every year forever. That would make a huge difference in our Catholic schools, and that's our job. Make it happen.
It's why supporting the foundation is so important, right? I mean, it's these kids need this opportunity, and these families want this opportunity. They're yearning for it. It's why supporting the foundation, if you can, is such an important factor. Terry, tell us about some of the exciting new things that you and your team are planning for this next school year.
So a big part of it is just getting back to what everyone's calling normal now. So there was a lot of interruption, obviously, with our ability to do some of the things that Ascension's been known for.
Right.
Critical thinking, problem solving. And a lot of that involved...
And this is because of COVID?
Right, yeah. I mean, kids weren't able to interact in different classes with each other or even be close enough to each other to do things like, our middle school students were in the process of building a computer from scratch just to get you, and so that project has been still sitting in the technology lab waiting to be finished. But, so I think we're still the only Catholic elementary school with the majority of our teachers trained in project-based learning. And so that's something we're excited to get back to this year. In fact, we've contacted PBL Works to come do our professional development in August to get our teachers all retrained and ready to go. So really just getting back to what we do really well and having the opportunity to do it. So, we're praying that we can start this year and complete this year in a way we did prior to the pandemic.
Project-based learning. Now, that was a buzzword kind of before the whole COVID years type thing. What is project-based learning?
Well, to water it down, it's basically taking what you're teaching students and giving them, and saying, hey, now go take what we've taught, or what you've learned, and go create something useful with it. And so it's things like building a computer. It's things like learning how to read a blueprint of our school and having kids print 3D models of each classroom and to scale. So that's working with the cross-curricular piece of our math teacher and our technology teacher working together that we couldn't do. But that project-based piece, brings it in, gives them an opportunity to say, okay, we're learning about, measurement. Well, okay, you may ask young Billy, why do I need to know measurement? Well, how about we build a birdhouse, and then we're going to combine that with the art class. You get to paint it. But we're also going to research different bird species and go do that and find out what kind of birds use these houses. But then they build the birdhouse. They actually take the measurements. We cut the wood.
Do it.
But they put them together, and then we either donate them to Habitat for Humanity or the kids can take them home. But it's just putting it into use and practice to show them this has use. What you're learning is useful and practical in the real world.
You see what Terry's brought here, I want to give Terry some more accolades. He, 2 of my 4 kids were fortunate enough to have him in the classroom at Holy Spirit School in middle school. He was the best, and we're grateful for that. But I visited the school before. Julie and I have been out to Ascension pre-COVID, and we saw firsthand the project work going on inside that school. It's different than other schools. It's different, and it's working. And you can see the enthusiasm the kids have about building something like he's talking about. You can see it, and it's palpable. And I think, again, if you're interested in going to a Catholic school, be it Ascension or otherwise, go learn about what's going on inside that building.
Yeah. And go find a place that fits you, right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing. All these schools are a little bit different, and you can find something that fits your needs very easily in this archdiocese.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I tell families who tour all the time, I say, we are a smaller school, although we've grown substantially, again, with the help of the CEF and a lot of other factors and hard work of our faculty, certainly. But if maybe a smaller school isn't what you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for, because in the Archdiocese of Louisville, I mean, you can have your pick.
Yep.
You can have a school with 800 plus students. You can have a school with 450 students. You can have a healthy school, a school that's Ascension with 240 students.
Sure.
And, so you've got that range. And I talk to parents about that and say, but beyond that, now you can start breaking down what's different. I mean, listen, every elementary school in the Archdiocese of Louisville is fantastic. Our curriculum's the same. We share the same curriculum and stellar administrations. We do a great job, but there are subtle differences, such as project-based learning, technology, things that start to set us apart that I encourage families to get in those buildings and look at.
Rich, I got a couple more for you. And this one's, I was on the phone the other day with Julie, and she was telling me about a tragedy that a family had just gone through in the Archdiocese of Louisville, and just a horrific tragedy I don't even want to bring up. But, they called, they basically said, look, we can't send our kid to this Catholic school anymore, because of this tragedy, we just can't do it. And Rich and his team stepped up and said, no, absolutely not. And they made sure that they figured out a way to keep this kid in Catholic schools. I don't know that the donors understand that that's the kind of stuff you guys deal with on a daily basis, right? It's not just awards and making sure families get a little bit of money, that they kind of meet that gap. But man, you guys, you're dealing with some things over there that you're really helping people through life circumstances.
Yeah, thanks, Teague. The one thing I never really understood about the foundation until I worked there is how much kind of hand-to-hand work you do every day to help people. Job loss, divorce, death, any kind of thing that happens in the history of a family, it happens fairly often across our population.
Right.
And the first thing that people go to, particularly if it has to do with economics, family situation, is we can't have this anymore. We're gonna leave Ascension.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave St. Paul. We're not gonna be able to do that experience anymore.
Right.
And at our place, the window never closes.
Yeah.
We have deadlines for filing applications, this and that. But if you call our office today, we're going to answer that phone, and we're going to. And I know the situation you're talking about. It was horrific, and there was no way those kids weren't going to go to a Catholic school next fall, and it's covered.
That gives me chills, Rich, when I hear you say that, because it's one of those things. You're not going to leave these kids behind. It's
way.
You just aren't going to let it happen.
No way.
It's. I think our donors need to hear that, because this is what you're supporting.
Yeah, we started The Answer Is Yes years ago because we were saying no to people because we didn't have the funding to help them. So we had to say, gosh, you qualify for an award, but we're sorry we ran out of money. And we flipped that around and said, you know what, we're not going to say that anymore. We're going to say the answer is yes. So we want to be able, and it's all about our donors that we're able to do this. We want to be able to say to the next family that calls this afternoon or tomorrow morning, the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So, Rich, if a family listens to this podcast and wants their children to join the Ascension School community but can't afford it, what should they do?
First thing to do is go visit the school. As we talked about earlier, figure out if it fits or not, and do some diligence around that. Meet with Terry, meet with some of the faculty. If school's in session, obviously tour the school. That's where you really get a feel for it. And first of all, forget the numbers for a minute. Make sure that as far as you can tell, that's going to be a really good fit, not only for your student, but for your family. This is a family experience. It really is. And if that's the case, then you reach out to the Catholic Education Foundation, 585-2747, ceflou.org, and we're going to make it happen. We're going to go through a process. You're going to do an application. We're going to need some financial information, just like everybody else. But if you qualify for an award, we're going to make it happen. And your son or daughter is going to be at Ascension School next fall, period.
Terry, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I think we really shed some light on how special not only Ascension is, but just Catholic schools in general are in our area.
Yeah, thank you, Teague. Thank you, Rich, so much.
God bless you both.
Rich, as always, at the Catholic Education Foundation,
the answer is yes.